GearNetwork.com.
The following is a presentation of the Gear Radio Network.
From wherever we decide studios, broadcasted live on iTunes, Spreaker, and worldwide, this is the Turnbuckle Talk Radio Podcast with your host, the producer, Pat G. The G stands for Gangsta. And now kick back and get ready for the eargasms.
Welcome to another edition of the TTRP, Turnbuckle Talk Radio Podcast, brought to you by Gear Network and, of course, GearNetwork.com. Brand new website. Visit the website, click the links, visit our sponsors, check out the other programming of the shows. But you are here to listen to myself, Pat G, the G stands for Gangster, and Dan Fury, the Furious One, as we talk all the fun things in professional wrestling.
You know, we're up to this 2 times a week because there's so much. It's 2 times the news every single day. It just keeps getting bigger and bigger and bigger, as Dr. Seuss would say. It's your boy, Sergeant Fury, Dan Roberts, on the microphone once again with Pat G. Man, has it been a weekend.
It has been a weekend of wrestling, and I'm going to say this, Friday was the best day of wrestling ever, and I'm mad that I didn't go to the show, but that's besides the point.
It happens, brother. It happens. I mean, who would have known, though? Like, literally, who would have known in the Buffalo area where you're from
Yes.
that Friday night would have been NXT TakeOver Buffalo?
Yeah, and NXT TakeOver Smackdown Buffalo, New York. That's essentially what it was. And yeah. And I shit you not, I'm sitting on my couch as stuff is happening, and I'm going, you know what? I'm so angry right now. I'm just so angry.
Now, here's the question. Are you angrier at this one, or are you angry that you still didn't go to the DC episode of AEW Dynamite? Now, that's the question. Because essentially you had TakeOver in your backyard.
Yes.
But you were down in Baltimore for AEW and you didn't go. Like, which one are you a little upset more at?
I'm more upset about the TakeOver. The NXT thing, because it was here. Like, the DC thing, it would have been cool because debut episode and all that. Uh-huh. But the NXT thing was like, I was here. I wasn't in a rush to, like, get home.
Yeah, and I mean, the fact that this even happened is what I love the word happenstance, because, you know, we recorded the Halloween Havoc episode of the podcast not really thinking that we were about to stumble into one hell of a news cycle based on one show.
Oh God, yeah.
And literally the ripple effect of this one show has taken up the entire weekend. And I mean, it's everything that wrestlers and wrestling fans were talking about on social media all weekend. It wasn't the results of the show. It had nothing to do with any of the matches on the show. What it had to do with was all of the real-world politics that took place because of the show.
Yeah, the real-world politics and the aftermath of the effect that it had on the WWE landscape as far as their shows for the weekend, and even rolling into Monday Night Raw tonight.
Oh, yeah. I mean, you know, we can obviously get into the politics, but the fact that Triple H went out on Smackdown and, in essence, rallied the troops and made it an even bigger deal that it's 3 brands fighting for supremacy at Survivor Series. The last couple of years, you know, NXT TakeOver has taken place the night before, and then Survivor Series goes in and does its thing where it's recently become Raw versus SmackDown. Now it's Raw and SmackDown versus Triple H's kids. And he went out with Shawn Michaels and his stable and basically told them, get ready for war. And now that one moment, due to the lack of star power on SmackDown on Friday, has led to an even bigger setup for one of the big four. Like this year, it is completely cool that we're going to see three brands fighting to see who can get more points on the board.
Oh, absolutely. And what's funny is also the memes that have come out of this past weekend of wrestling. There was I saw somebody shared it in a group chat on that, and the scene from SpongeBob where you had like the very skinny fish surrounded by the big muscle and then a whale, and it was like one was dressed up as the Fiend, the other one was basically Brock Lesnar, and then you saw the one in like the Photoshop Bebe shirt acting like Adam Cole, and I'm going, yeah, that's the truth. But but you would lose your shit completely if Adam Cole wins that match.
The other thing that I saw was after, the Saudi Arabia show, they had a video on Facebook where all it said above it was Adam Cole's reaction to facing the Fiend and Brock Lesnar, and it was this dude at a barbecue, and if you turned the audio on, the dude is like sitting there, and he just, for whatever reason, he's at the grill, and he just stops and he looks around, and he's like, man, what the? And he drops the F-bomb, and he like slams the lid, and I'm just kind of sitting there, I'm like, yeah, if I were Adam Cole right now, I'd be like, I'm just going to get thrown around. Like, that's my job at Survivor Series, is just show up, super kick some people, and get thrown around by Brock Lesnar and The Fiend, who kicks out at one. Both of them just kick out at one. Nothing he does is going to work.
Yeah, exactly. It's like the Fiend has taken 26 curb stomps and still just popped up like it was nothing. So,
yeah.
But
the destructible clown.
Yeah. Anyways, of course, starting with Thursday, of course, the WWE Crown Royal event, none of the results of the show mattered. It really didn't. Yes, no. The Fiend won the Universal Championship. Brock Lesnar retained. You had Natalya and Lacey Evans, whatever.
Yeah, that's basically it. I hate to say it. That
was it.
The Universal Championship is now on SmackDown. Brock Lesnar took the title to Raw.
We'll get to that.
Yeah, it is what it is.
Of course, the Crown Royal event ends, and it has been reported through numerous sites that WWE has chartered a flight for the SmackDown talent from Riyadh, Saudi Arabia to Buffalo, New York. I'm sure there's probably a transfer or a layover, whether at some point. And unfortunately, due to things unbeknownst, there were either fuel issues, mechanical issues, something went wrong with the plane. They could not take off. The talent could not take off. There was about 20 total superstars that got out of Riyadh completely fine. Of course, Hulk Hogan and Ric Flair being two of them because they have their own plane. Other Lesnar has his own plane. And also once the plane issue started happening, WWE arranged other things for the key people that they needed to get out, leaving a lot of WWE talent stuck. And it was shown on social media. Luke Harper, among others, kind of with the hashtag not top 20. And of course, this led to major rewrites for SmackDown here in Buffalo, New York. And then that's when the reports started flying in that WWE was flying in NXT talent. And there was reports out there that even the NXT talent nearly did not make it in time. They literally got to the arena at 7:55.
Yeah, they were the one swear word for the day, kids, is one of my all-time favorites. the clusterfuck of this past Thursday / Friday that took place, it is a miracle that SmackDown was as good as it was. Because had Brock Lesnar not made it to television, that would have been one of the major key stars that Fox wanted during their acquisition of the rights to have SmackDown on their television program.
Yep.
More on that to come. Okay. The hashtag not top 20. Do realize that you had guys like AJ Styles who were stuck in Saudi Arabia. In the past 4 years, one of the faces of the company, if not the face of the company for a little while there. You had a lot of talent, a lot of backstage personnel, a lot of people were left in Saudi Arabia. And, I mean, for those of you who have not traveled abroad, let me kind of educate you on this. The airport systems are way different overseas than they are in the United States. Having been to Kuwait City and their airport, I mean, I can only imagine the culture shock for some of these guys of being in a place where they legitimately do not have any means of I hate to say taking care of themselves because it makes them sound like giant children, but literally they're asked out in a country that they're not familiar with. I mean, some of them have probably done tours, previously with the Saudi Arabia shows, but it's a completely different environment. And they're in a holding pattern where no one is getting information. By all accounts, from everything that everyone was talking about, no one was really getting a true story.
No, not at all.
All they knew is that they were stuck. They kept getting a changed around story, and that at least the major, quote, top 20s were out of the country already.
Yes. And, of course, there was the reported issue that Vince McMahon cut the Saudi Arabia feed of the event due to the fact of not getting paid completely in full for the last Saudi Arabia event.
Mm-hmm.
That was reported. It was rumored that Vince McMahon and the Crown Prince of Saudi got into a dispute over unpaid money, leading Vince to cutting the Saudi feed. These rumors have yet to be confirmed, of course. And then in a statement to Forbes magazine, WWE is standing by the reported mechanical issues that caused the flight delay, and that the Saudi feed being delayed had nothing to do with any payment dispute. They are quoted as, "We have a good relationship with our partners, and the feed issues were unrelated to anything of that nature, payment dispute. We've been public with the mechanical issues the charter company has as well," which is the truth. Because the very opening segment of WWE Smackdown here in Buffalo was Todd Phillips going a crazy 24 hours, and they said the mechanical problems and everything, and then that's when the music of Brock Lesnar hit it, and he comes to the ring. And what's funny is, while I did not attend the show, which I wish I did, friends of mine had attended the show, and they were quoting things on Twitter and everything. And my one friend put on Twitter that two adults behind him made the statement of, "Oh, Brock just came in the ring and Paul Heyman talked. We really paid money for this?" Well, you know what? Come on, if you've been watching WWE for the last year, that's what Brock Lesnar does.
Probably since 2012.
Yeah,
2012. That's kind of what happens. Like since the summer of 2012, that's what you get. Like, I hate to say it, back after WrestleMania, when Raw was in Albany, New York.
Yeah.
Guess what? After he won Money in the Bank, I was there that night. He did the same exact thing. Only that was when, you had the Brock box or whatever.
Yeah, it was Brock showing a little entertaining. Though,
because he was kind of like, F all this. I've got money. I don't care.
Though, on a side note, for a lot of people that think Brock Lesnar is just a tough SOB, which he honestly is and whatnot, there was a report that I saw somewhere, I can't remember it, where Lesnar was flying in, had to stop in Iceland or Newfoundland or something like that.
Iceland. It was Iceland. Yep.
Iceland. For gas fill to fill his plane up. And there were guys from WWE that were there that their plane had run out of gas or whatever. And he's like, hey, you know what? There were issues with the plane. He had them jump on his plane with him to finish the flight to get to Saudi Arabia.
Yep. Hulk Hogan jumped on the flight with his, quote, friend from Minneapolis, which is cool. Ric Flair jumped on that same flight. You know, for all intents and purposes, you know, Brock, although people talk about his backstage demeanor and although people talk about his, you know, the way he is in public, where he's very, you know, introverted, the dude had no problems taking on these guys and being like, let's go. You know, add them to the itinerary. We're bringing these guys.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like, that goes to show you the level of respect that he has for the dudes who've paved the way for him to be able to afford a private jet, to be able to fly into Saudi Arabia. And I mean, let's be honest, he probably got paid like $5 million to do this one match with Cain Velasquez anyway. But it still shows a real class act that, you know, the boys are stuck and Brock's got a plane and Brock's like, well, jump on, guys. Like, let's just do this. It must have been an interesting flight. You know what I mean? Like, that must have been kind of cool.
Yeah.
But, you know, the idea that Brock did that, and then he followed it up with a Make-A-Wish, I believe, in Buffalo, New York, if I'm not mistaken. I saw photos of that.
Yeah, I believe he did. I believe he did that as well. He was he was actually filling in for someone.
Yeah, and the thing is, to me, is, you know, Brock Lesnar is maybe not one of my favorite personalities as far as, you know, what he presents on screen. You know, we all have our likes and dislikes, but I will give him credit where credit is due. Very classy move for Brock to be like, dude, this is a suck situation. You're stuck in Iceland. No, you're not. Get in the. I can imagine him being like, get in the fucking plane. Let's go.
Oh yeah, exactly. Especially with it being Flair and Hogan to begin with.
Exactly. I mean, my favorite thing is that on the flight back to the United States, poor Ric Flair is trying to sleep, and, you know, Hulk Hogan and Jimmy Hart are posting pictures of them messing with him all night.
Oh yeah, that was entertaining.
Like, give the dude a break.
Yeah, but of course, when we get to SmackDown, Brock comes out and Paul Heyman talks about how he wanted to get revenge on Rey Mysterio for the brutal chair beating that Mysterio gave his client, and was deemly told, no, this is not going to happen because Mysterio's a Raw superstar, which leads Paul Heyman to essentially say that Brock Lesnar effective immediately quits Friday Night SmackDown. And this basically solves the conundrum of having your two heavyweight champions on the same show,
which makes it plausible for someone like Kofi Kingston. Let's be fair here. Kofi lost in what, 5 seconds?
Yep,
10 seconds.
Yeah,
okay.
Something like that.
He would not be getting a rematch against Brock Lesnar anytime soon for the title.
No, not at all.
First, we do at least get Kofi to have a rematch. Kofi versus The Fiend, although The Fiend is going to no-sell every single move and kick out at one like he's been doing, at least in his series with Rollins. It doesn't, you know, Brock Lesnar is a mountain of a human being, so it will obviously take, you know, a certain level of superstar in order to beat Brock Lesnar for the WWE Championship.
And to be honest, the minus Roman Reigns, more of those guys are over on the Raw side of things.
Exactly. We do, however, now, because of the Raw, SmackDown, NXT setup for Survivor Series, we do get to see the Bray Wyatt Brock Lesnar match that we didn't get to see a few years back.
This is very true. And also, of course, with this episode of SmackDown, of course, you had the NXT invasion of course, where they had to change some stuff up. Originally, it was supposed to be a six women tag match. They changed that. Nikki Cross got her women's championship match against Bayley, which essentially ended with Sasha playing the numbers game with Sasha interfering. And then out of the crowd came Shayna Baszler and just pretty much destroyed everyone.
Yeah, there was a picture of Shayna just knocking Bayley out, and it looked like the most awkward fall because it looked like Bayley actually got blasted. Like, when the human body gets for real knocked out, it falls awkwardly, and she made that look beautiful. I mean,
oh yeah,
the most dominant NXT Women's Champion of all time can now be said to be Shayna Baszler, and she just came to the ring with a purpose, and she's an intimidating woman. So for her to show up on Friday night and be the face of the NXT women's division instead of like Candice LeRae or someone like that, outstanding idea to have her just be the brick shithouse going in there and just clearing everything out.
And while yes, Bayley is the SmackDown Women's Champion, I'm salivating at Survivor Series when Becky Lynch and Shayna Baszler faces off. Yeah. With this attitude that Becky Lynch has had for over the last year of the man and everything, that versus that raw just destruction that Shayna Baszler brings, I'm like, yo, I don't even need Bayley in that match. Like, Bayley's there just to bump around.
Yeah, like Bayley's going to be there to get thrown over. And I mean, best case scenario, Bayley ends up pinning one of them and kind of being like, ha ha ha, with this new, he's got this heel turn. Because really, Becky's going in as the beloved face.
Yep.
Shayna's kind of going in there as the upstart third brand that's trying to put their stamp on it. And let's be 100% clear here. You have 2 out of the 4 horsewomen in that match and 1 of the MMA horsewomen in that match. So could this be the setup for the 4 horsewomen versus 4 horsewomen in Tampa that we've been kind of thinking would happen eventually?
It honestly could. I could see that because there's been my small reports that there's going to be two War Game matches. There for NXT TakeOver, you're going to have the Women's War Games match, but then on Survivor Series, you're going to have another War Games match featuring all 3 brands. Which would be absolutely balls out cool to see. And I mean, when it comes to Survivor Series, I'm sure we could get into the history of it.
Oh, what I really miss? I miss the matches. Like, up until 1991, when Undertaker faced Hogan, there were no singles matches on those. And I miss those classic team versus team elimination matches. Like, I do dig the concept of Raw versus SmackDown. Don't get me wrong. I think it's a cool concept to have the champions kind of fight against each other and, to kind of see brand supremacy. We've got some interesting matches out of that.
Oh, absolutely.
We got AJ versus Brock. We got D. Bryan versus Brock. We've had some interesting tag champion versus tag champion crossover matches, which were nothing shy of amazing. Some great U.S. versus Intercontinental Championship matches. But I do love that team versus team concept. And it would be cool to see a very well put together NXT team versus a Raw team. And I mean, unfortunately, it looks like Adam Cole's going to be in a triple threat that night.
Yes.
But I was kind of hoping we were going to maybe see the OC versus the Undisputed era.
Well, it's going to be interesting to see what happens because Tommaso Ciampa, who showed up on SmackDown during the Miz TV segment and then had a hell of a match with The Miz. he tweeted out, "Goldie will have to wait. Daddy's going to war."
Which kind of puts everything that, it's an interesting way that they're doing this, because they now can do a very slow build to Royal Rumble weekend.
Yes.
Which I believe in this day and age, and we've talked about it, it's so quick. The storylines go so quickly now. Like feuds don't last months and months, and they don't brew, and, they don't simmer like they used to. You look at the Macho Man Hulk Hogan feud. That simmered over like a year and a half until it finally exploded at WrestleMania 5. Nowadays, feuds boil for a couple months. Like, look at the Seth Rollins Fiend storyline. We had Hell in a Cell, and then we just had Crown Jewel. And now that storyline is all but forgotten because we're getting ready for Survivor Series. It's like that could have built for months into Royal Rumble. Now, Tommaso Ciampa, who after this neck surgery came back looking great. Okay, he looks better now than he did going away for the surgery. And he wasn't in bad shape before he went. But it's just great to see him looking this good.
Oh, yeah.
Having, like you said, a great match with The Miz. For me, I'm cool with them doing a slow build to WrestleMania for Ciampa.
Oh,
because if
absolutely.
they happen to if they forego, maybe a major match the night, at NXT TakeOver, and they say the NXT Championship is going to be match 4 on WrestleMania, and it's Ciampa versus Adam Cole, you'll be hard pressed to find a match on the card that could compare to what those NXT guys would deliver at a WrestleMania. I mean, you saw what happened when, King Ricochet and Aleister Black were thrown into a match at WrestleMania this year. Like, their entrances alone stole the show, let alone Ricochet really having a breakout performance. Tommaso Ciampa could put NXT on USA on the map for Wednesday nights.
Yeah.
Given that opportunity. WrestleMania.
Absolutely. And of course this led to the main event of SmackDown being Adam Cole versus Daniel Bryan for the NXT Championship. And of course you also had Keith Lee and Matt Riddle show up and take out Sami Zayn. And
yeah, the King of Bros. Bro.
And what's funny is, after that happened, after SmackDown happened, I believe it was on Saturday, I saw it, there was the reported story that Matt Riddle actually tweeted out the picture of him hitting the bro finish on Zayn and going, "This should have been Lesnar."
He's really pushing for that match. And, okay. Do I think it would be a cool match? Yes. Do I think it could put him on the map? Absolutely. Do I think it will happen within this calendar year or next calendar year? No.
No.
It's not because Matt Riddle isn't an amazing athlete and a talented one and has, without a doubt, one of the best knockouts on The Ultimate Fighter. Like, if you go back and you YouTube Matt Riddle knockout The Ultimate Fighter, it has, without a doubt, he had one of the sickest knockouts on that show's history.
Oh, absolutely.
All right. But he doesn't have enough time on WWE television, on network television, in my opinion, to put him in a match against Brock Lesnar where there's even the potential of him, quote, retiring Brock Lesnar, because that's what he wants to do. He came WWE to, quote, retire Brock Lesnar. I honestly would like to see Goldberg versus Matt Riddle before I'd like to see Brock Lesnar versus Matt Riddle.
Oh, God.
Because of the exchange on Twitter and the meetup at
the video that was essentially exactly what Matt Riddle said it was.
Yeah, it was, I'm not your bro. And it's like, Matt Riddle had some very harsh comments about the performance of Goldberg in his match against Undertaker in Saudi, and those comments may have matched what a lot of fans thought. But let's look at this. Dude is 50-something years old and knocked himself out in the match. Like, it wasn't a great match. Even he admitted it. Just, I guess, salt in the wound of having a guy like Matt Riddle do it, say it. But just to see him on SmackDown and have him interacting with another former NXT guy in Sami Zayn, dude, I mean, you put him on TV more, in a year or so, I could totally see Brock Lesnar versus Matt Riddle being a marquee match on a pay-per-view. Absolutely.
Absolutely. But at this point, we're going to take a bit of a break, get some Gear Network sponsors out, get some our own TTRP sponsors out. But we'll be back as we talk more of the breakdown of all the news that happened from Thursday until tonight from the Saudi Arabia Crown Jewel event. Ladies and gentlemen, it is Pat G from the Turnbuckle Talk Radio podcast. And no, we're not talking pro wrestling today, but we are talking sports hoodies, NFL, NBA, MLB, NHL, soccer, and much more. And this is brought to you by houseofhoodies.com, a new sponsor here at the TTRP. You can visit thehouseofhoodies.com and pick up your favorite team's merchandise. They have current players, former players, or you can customize your own hoodie, whether it be the NBA, NHL, MLB, and the NFL. After you're done shopping, use the promo code TTR Podcast and you will get 15% off your order. That's TTR Podcast for 15% off at thehouseofhoodies.com.
Ladies and gentlemen, this podcast is powered by our Amazon affiliation. That's right, we're back on the Amazon train. If you go to GearNetwork.com under the Support the Shows banner, click the Amazon link. It will take you directly to your Amazon account, and you can do all of your Christmas shopping, holiday shopping, or regular shopping there. If that doesn't work, click on any one of the banners you see on GearNetwork.com. It will take you to Amazon as well. Using our banners, using our links, helps power this podcast in a way that we appreciate very much. So again, GearNetwork.com, click on any one of the banners to shop Amazon and support this podcast.
And we're back here, TTRP, Sergeant Fury, Pat G, talking all the smorgasbords of news from this past weekend, wrestling-wise. And this is the thing with all of this is, of course, as you've said, you've done that track, that flight-wise, and you're going to run into guys being tired and wary and everything. And it seems like they've already run into that because there was a report saying that, of course, the backstage reportedly right now, the feeling is of wariness as far as the Raw locker room goes. And that's the truth. Like, these guys had a 20-hour something flight, but then they also didn't leave until 8 a.m. Saturday morning, essentially.
Yeah.
Because it wasn't until because the event happened 1 o'clock here. Well, it was 8 p.m. there. Yeah. So it wasn't essentially, they didn't leave until legit Friday morning, early Friday morning, late Friday morning or whatever. And then I saw a tweet from Kofi Kingston saying, "Thank God, finally back in the States." And I think that was maybe an hour or two before SmackDown.
Yeah, I mean, there are you have to remember, obviously, the time differential between the two. I think it's like an 8 hour. 8-hour difference, but I mean, flight-wise and travel-wise, it feels like an eternity that you're traveling that route. You know what I mean? And, of course, you have to take into consideration that these guys do this all the time. I mean, you know, we hear stories of them flying, you know, doing a European tour, then flying to Australia, then flying back to the U.S. in like 5 days' time. You know, the travel is nothing new to them. However, like I said, being stuck in a predicament where it's like we legitimately do not know the situation, that's above our pay grade kind of thing. And, you know, yeah, I can imagine that they would be very, you know, road wary, but also just weary about going back over to another show because, as it was reported tonight,
yes,
you know, before we recorded, WWE and the, you know, Kingdom of Saudi Arabia.
Yeah, here's the official press release that WWE issued. WWE and the Saudi General Entertainment Authority expand event partnership. Stamford, Connecticut, Riyadh, Saudi Arabia, November 4th, 2019. Following the historic Crown Jewel event in Riyadh, WWE and the Saudi General Entertainment Authority have expanded their live event partnership through 2027 to include a second annual large-scale event. WWE and GEA also continue to work towards the completion of a media agreement in the region. The long-term partnership demonstrates WWE and GEA's commitment to bring sports entertainment to the region and support Saudi Arabia's Vision 2030. Of course, this comes on the heels of the rumored dispute between Vince McMahon and the SGEA following the Crown Jewel because of the money they didn't get for the last event, but that's not been confirmed. But still, you're extending your thing for another 10 years. Or at this point, 8 years, because it says 2027. So
yeah. So okay, my thoughts on this, and these are only my thoughts. A couple months back, may have said that there is no way, shape, or form, no Ice Cube in hell's chance. You have a better chance of seeing space aliens land on the White House lawn versus seeing a women's wrestling match come out of Saudi Arabia. Yeah, I kind of got proven wrong on that one. Okay. You know,
you weren't the only one that was saying that, though.
Yeah, I wasn't the only one that was saying that. However, I may have been called xenophobic over my beliefs in the Saudi government and how they react to certain things. I mean, they did
of course
freak out when women were featured in a video package that was shown in Saudi Arabia, the first show.
They did.
They freaked out, and even their athletic authority said then women will never wrestle in our country. And I was like, well, you have to remember this is a different country. This is not a westernized country, and I may have taken some heat for it, but whatever. I've been there. I've done that. I know the region. Do I think that this is a good deal for WWE as far as their globalization of their product and really solidifying themselves as the top brand of all time within professional wrestling and sports entertainment? Yeah, I think this is a good deal for them. Vince is going to get paid an exorbitant amount of money, and his company is going to thrive.
Oh, absolutely. Well, the thing, of course, with this announcement is WWE stock. It was reported out that their stock took another hit on today, dropping to the lowest point in a year and a half. The stock closed at $53.16. Which is down $2.80, about 5% from the previous closing price. This marks the lowest closing price for the stock since May 18th of 2018, when the closing price was $51.42. The drop comes after a massive fall last Wednesday after the quarter three earnings call, which the quarter three earnings call came out, and WWE had taken like an 81 or 82, maybe even 83% like profit loss.
But yet, at the same token, they just made a boatload of money on the USA and Fox deals.
Yes. Yeah.
So, and they just made another boatload of money on the Saudi Arabia.
Extending the Saudi Arabia deal. So
while boo-hoo, their stock went down, they still have boatloads of cash. I mean, this isn't...
Not to mention Vince McMahon is... his XFL is starting next year.
Yeah, I mean, Vince McMahon... He's already the way that the company has been restructured and the way that things are going TV deal wise, it's looking like he's going to be taking a back seat to the wrestling aspect of the company and working more towards his vision for what NXT could have been in 2000. I mean, very rarely does someone get an opportunity to fix a mistake that they made, and it might have taken 20 years, but Vince McMahon is getting his opportunity to do that. The thing that really gets me is that, to the best of my knowledge, the Saudi Arabia shows are an optional deal, much like the Tribute to the Troops shows when guys would go to Iraq and Afghanistan to perform were optional shows. There seems to be rumors coming out, through social media and through other, wrestling reports, that there's a lot of the talent that after this debacle have basically said, yeah, I'm not going back over.
Yeah, and WWE has already had issues with this. John Cena went over once, and then after that said he was never going back. Daniel Bryan, same thing. Sami Zayn isn't going over due to the fact of his heritage. Kevin Owens has denied to go over, has basically said he's not going. WWE's running the problem of eventually getting to a point where a lot of your heavy hitters may not want to go over there anymore. And then you run the risk of, oh shit, what do we do?
I mean, right now, WWE has run into a issue where, John Cena has a very public image to uphold.
He does.
You have to remember that we can't talk about Saudi Arabia without talking about the reason why there's a lot of people that don't like entertainment in the United States going to Saudi Arabia. And it's not necessarily, it's both sides of the aisle can kind of agree on this one. This is a country that brutalizes homosexuals. In fact, has a reputation of punishing them by throwing them off of buildings with their hands and feet bound. Women can be brutalized for being in public with someone that isn't their husband or a male relative. This is a country that legitimately has a squad of police officers that hunt you down for witchcraft and magic and sorcery. They have a division of their police that hunt down and prosecute witchcraft.
Yep.
Fake Harry Potter fucking witchcraft, like bull crap witchcraft. Okay, they have a division of their police that will arrest people for listening to music. Okay, while we love to believe that things are harsh in this country, they're nothing compared to Saudi Arabia. And the bright-eyed, bushy-tailed, happy puppy concept of bringing Americanized entertainment to this country, yeah, it seems great and all until you have, 100 people stuck because of a dick measuring contest between a pampered prince and an egotistical billionaire.
Yeah, absolutely. And on top of it, one of the WWE announcers, Hugo Savovich, who's been with WWE for, God, I don't even know how many years, because I remember him being on the Spanish announce team when I was a kid. He had an interview with Hannibal TV, and he claimed that there was more to the WWE superstars getting stranded there than anyone's letting on. Of course, we've gone over the WWE saying it was plane malfunction. AJ Styles had a long explanation of his experience and everything, but Hugo Savinovich is quoted as saying it was very difficult and dangerous situation because of the fact that Saudi Arabia has already been in serious trouble when they killed the reporter in Turkey at the embassy. So the boys were they were very, very concerned. Vince had left the country already and Brock had his own plane. It was just about big money, millions of dollars, and Vince got upset and cut the feed for South Arabia. That has the prince upset, and it stopped them from leaving the country, and it got them off the plane, which that was a report that they had to exit the plane and go back through customs to enter Saudi Arabia again while they checked the plane. So basically what they're doing is they're originally trying to make it look like it was just a mechanical issue, but an executive from the company, my wife, had died, so they were just calling to comfort me. At the same time, I was told not to mention any names, but they were very concerned. A friend of mine from Saudi Arabia that I've known for years and years since the era of VHS tapes that I used to do from Puerto Rico, he also gave me the scoop about what happened at the airport. So a lot of people will be talking more about it. The boys are very upset, so I don't know what the deal is. Of course, we always know that money talks, and if Vince gets the millions of dollars and maybe the Middle East, that big TV contract, because it didn't happen in one day, he lost over $200 million. So it's a complicated situation, but the talent was, I don't know, want to use the word kidnap, but he ordered kidnapping and the guys were stopped from leaving the country.
Now, for those of you who don't know what Hugo was referring to, they're referring to Jalal Khashoggi.
Yes.
Who was a reporter for the Washington Post, who was over a year ago murdered in Turkey at a Saudi embassy. He had been investigating on corruption within the Saudi
government.
He was murdered, straight up murdered, chopped up, put into bags, put into suitcases. People working for the Prince of Saudi Arabia had the suitcases walked out, under their arms, and they had someone dress up like Khashoggi and leave the place so that the surveillance video showed him. But then upon further inspection by various media outlets, they realized that's not Khashoggi, and Khashoggi came out in suitcases.
Yep, and then, of course, Interpol and other federal and international government agencies got involved and finally discovered that Khashoggi had been murdered.
Yeah, and what really gets me is, this is the reason that John Cena may or may not have decided not to go back there. Because of the spotlight being put onto this. I mean, and the worst part about this is this is one of those things where as soon as the Saudi government was found the Saudi royalty was found to have had any implication in this, people just kind of raised their hands and was like, we're not going to talk about this anymore.
Yeah. I think it was on Yahoo. Yeah, I believe it was on Yahoo. They did an article on the deal that WWE has with Saudi Arabia. And they referenced it similar to the here it is. It was from last month in October, but they talked about how they should kind of maybe look at it again, and they referenced the whole NBA China Pact as well. And they referenced how WWE's got this association with Saudi Arabia, and maybe it's time that they listen to their fans and back out of it. But they made it in the sense of they referred it to or compared it to the NBA in China and the way the situation in China is going on and how some NBA executives have voiced their support and whatnot. and how it has affected the NBA and China's relationship. So it's like...
It's so weird
It's weird that these major sport entertainment industries within the United States have these relationships like with international countries, and because of certain situations, it's like, okay, we can talk about it, but then we don't want to talk about it.
Yeah, it's the funny part about this is that, in recent months, we have seen us, over the last year with the Jamal Khashoggi murder by the Saudi government. Don't give a shit, I'll say it. And with, the human rights violations by the Chinese government, however, the NBA kind of turns a blind eye because of the millions of people that it is able to market. That leaves room for the dudes in South Park to kind of pistol whip these companies that do this. I mean, the fans can, back out and be like, I'm not going to buy that. However, they already have your money. If you think about it, like, yeah, you might boycott the Crown Jewel show, but I mean, you're still buying WWE products. You might boycott watching a game from China on NBC television, but you still own the LeBron James jersey. You still doled out your money. The thing that really gets me is that as long as people make it more public that, hey, if you're doing this straight up for money, it's cool. Just say you're doing it for money. Don't try and say that you're doing it because you want to bring a new level of peace and understanding to these countries, because the wheels on these countries are just going to keep turning. Vince McMahon can have this vision all he wants, and they can use their PR in order to say, oh, we're trying to usher them into this new world and new entertainment options and venues. And just admit it. You want money, and they're willing to give you money in order to bring certain talent over. Same as China. Just say it, and at least don't hide the fact that, yeah, although a reporter was murdered, or although that human rights are being violated by this government, hey, I also like $60 million in my bank account every once in a while.
Yeah, and this is the thing. It's where money talks and everything else doesn't. And for someone that, like Vince McMahon, who has raised his company up from being a very just a locational based promotion to a national media enterprise, and all the years that they were a private owned company, and then they became public traded, and all the sponsors, and they now have all the people you have to answer to. At the end of the day, yes, WWE has sponsors. They have Mattel and Snickers and this and that, and sponsoring their shows and events and everything. But at the end of the day, Vince McMahon's going, hey, I'm in this business to make money, because that's why my dad was in this business. That's why I'm in this business. I'm here to make money, and I don't care about anything else at the end of the day. Because truth be told, you can even look back in the early 90s when Vince McMahon had the steroid trial. WWE, granted, while they weren't the powerhouse they are now, they were still running shows, that he was still running he was still behind the company. Granted, he had given control to his wife and everything, but at the end of the day, the company was still owned by a McMahon. And yes, there was a steroid trial, and he got indicted and everything. They had the trial, found not guilty, but he was still making money off the product that his family owned. This same situation. He owns the WWE. Yes, I'm sure Vince McMahon knows about all this political stuff and everything and whatnot. But at the end of the day, he's a businessman first.
And, if people have that much of a problem with it, like, hey, this is kind of the way the world works, unfortunately. Like, we know these things occurred, We know these things occur, but we still, buy Chinese products. We still rely on petroleum-based products that don't come from the Middle East. I mean, I hate to say it, this is kind of the way the world works. For me, looking at it strictly from an entertainment thing, I just don't watch the shows. I've made it public. I don't watch any of the shows that emanate from Saudi Arabia. It's my personal thing. The Saudi government can kiss my ass. But, at the end of the day, that's kind of the only amount that I can do is, just being like, hey, they'll notice that my viewership on it isn't there, because there is the metrics that they can measure for watching the show and how many times it's been viewed on their network application. So clearly, if people stop watching the Saudi shows, they'll notice and maybe they would rethink it. But now they're locked into another 8 years. So, kudos to them for making money.
Yeah, absolutely. And this is the thing is the WWE puts out reports or whatever of the most watched things on the WWE network and everything. So they know what's being watched and what's not being watched. Yes. Is there a shit ton of stuff on there that WWE network probably is barely getting watched from people? Oh, absolutely. I doubt your typical wrestling fan today is watching Mid-South 1972 video that's on the network or whatever, but I can guarantee you they're watching the John Cena Brock Lesnar match from 5 years ago or whatever when Lesnar completely destroyed Cena. Yeah.
And, they're able to monitor, what superstars are trending, obviously. Not only do they nudge you towards ones they want you to view their content based on storylines that are going to happen, but, I mean, if you don't think there hasn't been an uptake in CM Punk searches on WWE Network since rumor came out that Punk might be returning, you'd have to be high.
Yeah. I guarantee you. And then on top of it, the WWE has, of course, pulled the network from older devices where you can't access it anymore. So you have to have a newer device. And then with the new layout of the network, they kind of direct you to certain content. Like the month of October was all like the Undertaker and Bray Wyatt and Halloween Havoc and I guarantee you if I went on the network right now, it would all be stuff dedicated towards the month of November and Survivor Series.
Yeah, I mean, when Finn made the jump to NXT recently, now they have the best of Finn Balor pretty much at the bottom of the PlayStation options to kind of get you to reintroduce you to Finn Balor in NXT. Like, they nudge you towards that area as it is. I mean, they had Goldberg on there for, I believe, in September. Was like a line of Goldberg matches, and I'm just sitting there, I'm like, well, I haven't watched Goldberg in a while. Still not going to, but it's nice to see that those options are there. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And this is the thing is what's funny with the network is like, I'll go in and I'll watch, I don't think I've watched anything from the network from this decade outside of like the pay-per-view events, probably in the last like 6 months. Like I've been watching the older documentaries. I'll occasionally watch a Table for Three. I'll watch a Table for Three. I watch the original content, like the Table for Threes, the ride-alongs, and then I'll do like the old school documentaries and everything that you used to get on like DVD. Yeah, which hey, also another thing WWE is no longer doing. WWE is no longer doing DVDs.
Yeah, I've noticed that like they're really scaling that back because a lot of the original documentaries that they have been doing on the network, like the Mark Henry one, really good. It was a good documentary. They can do a good 45-minute documentary, like these Chronicles. where they take a snapshot of what's going on with this superstar at this point in time.
Yeah.
And just do that. Like with Ronda Rousey, we wouldn't need a DVD for Ronda Rousey's rookie year in WWE. We can have that on the network on a 24 special.
Yep.
You know, for 365, which they did with Kevin Owens, as well as giving Kevin Owens a DVD. And, you know, I'm kind of waiting for that to pop up on there. But, like, there are certain stars where, you know, they don't have maybe the biggest catalog, so why worry about it? I mean, I'm still waiting for my Miz DVD, for Christ's sakes.
Yeah, like the man mentioned it, said it the other night on Smackdown. He's been in the WWE for 15 years, and I'm like, holy shit, it's been that, holy crap, it has been that long. Damn.
Yeah, like if you look back at it from the Miz showing up on the $1 Million Tough Enough Challenge on SmackDown to now, it's been 15 years that he's been on WWE TV. Like, it's insane when you think of superstars that have had an uninterrupted run, which he has. Like, if you think about it,
yeah,
he's had a good run. Which means, shouldn't we have a Miz DVD right about now?
We totally should have a Miz DVD right about now.
Where's my damn Miz DVD? It's October. Usually it's November. Usually you guys would have released a good DVD by now. Kind of disappointed in you.
And what's funny is with Miz, and Miz posted it on Instagram the other day about his 15 years and everything. Like, to think of how the Miz started and people going, oh, he's not going to amount to anything. This is a man that is one of the few heels in WWE history that's won the WrestleMania main event.
Yeah, and I mean, not only did he win, but he beat the biggest star in the industry that night.
Yeah.
Granted, he lost the belt like the next pay-per-view, but
he still walked out of WrestleMania with a 1-2-3 victory over John Cena.
Yeah, he walked in the champion, he walked out the champion, which, you know, it happens maybe with not as much frequency as you'd be shocked about, especially against Big Match John. You know, and that whole year anyway was a weird, bizarre, weird world for Miz anyway, because if you look at it, he beat John Cena at WrestleMania, and then he worked the main event at Survivor Series with The Rock.
Yeah, and teaming with R-Truth, who has also had a ridiculously long time in the WWE.
My God, now that you think about it, holy crap, those two dudes have been around forever. And they're just now peaking. Like, the 24/7 title with R-Truth is legit gold and has been gold since it came out. So,
what? You know what? Yeah. I attribute the 24/7 championship with R-Truth to when Crash Holly had the hardcore title.
Yeah, and it makes people want it even more.
Oh, yeah.
Like, I remember I was there when Mick debuted it, and I'm like, man, that's stupid. And then, like, a month later, I'm like, man, this is the most entertaining thing that they've got on television right now. This is ridiculous. This and Bray Wyatt is the most entertaining stuff that they've got.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially when you have cheating angles where the wife is still wearing her wedding ring on TV.
Yeah, let's not talk about that one.
Sorry, had to get it in. I saw highlight videos and I'm going, and I'm sitting here as I'm looking on my phone on YouTube because I don't watch WWE television outside of NXT anymore live. I'm seeing like the Raw highlight clips and I see it and I'm like, I literally go LeBron James meme at the fact that her ring is still on her finger.
Yeah, and I mean, yeah. At least Rusev is on television.
Yeah.
Yeah, at least he's on TV.
That's true. But the thing is with it being November, of course, we're leading into Survivor Series, and it's already, I already kind of having the live report on my phone or whatever. It seems like NXT has kind of invaded Raw. as there's the Matt Riddle has been reported to be backstage. Triple H showed up with a cavalcade of limousines, aka 3, which is usually the normal amount for a cavalcade of limos for WWE. Not the 12 that used to be in the NWO.
I was just about to say the 12 to 18 NWO limos. God, I miss those days.
That wouldn't even have everybody. It would just be a one limo for like 3 people.
I know, and that's the best part, is that Ted DiBiase would get out of one, and then Hulk would get out of one, and the Outsiders would get out of one, and then we're good.
And then it would be like the other 5 would have like a mix of like Buff and Flash Norton, and then you had Vincent and this guy and that guy, and I'm just like, why do you guys need so many limos?
Because Ted Turner was paying for it all.
That's true. Man, you know what? If I swear, sometimes I was like, if I had a time machine and I could just go back in time and be like, we're going to make you a little older, but you're going to work for WCW, I'd be happy. Because I guarantee you, all them people that worked at WCW from the May of 96 to somewhere maybe late 98, early 99 before the shit hit the fan. Yo, the amount of money all those people made.
Oh, God, yeah. Ridiculous amounts of money. I mean, that Nitro book that we talk about and has been talked about for a while, it's like, dude, the amount of money that some of those guys got is ridiculous for the dates that they worked.
Yeah.
I'd take.
I'm like, I was like, just give me like 5% of that and I would be set for life. God. But that's going to do it for us here. Of course, talking all the news from the weekends. We will be back again with another episode very soon because, as we know, news never stops in the wrestling world. Of course, we have Monday Night Raw. We have the Wednesday night shows. Impact Wrestling's on Tuesday night now, so we are now in a time where there's wrestling every night of the week.
There's wrestling every night of the week and not enough coffee for me to be able to do it.
It's essentially like someone's DVR literally could have like 30 hours of wrestling in a month and we'd still not be able to get through it all.
I hope that you people who don't have kids are able to watch this and enjoy it, because I really wish I had enough time in the day and a job that allowed me to be able to consume as much wrestling as needed without sacrificing sleep and family time.
You know what? And what's funny is, I've thought about it, is back when the Monday Night Wars were happening, the main wrestling was like one night a week where you kind of had to flip videotape or whatever. We're living in an age where it's like we are adults, we have kids, we have jobs, we have responsibilities, and there's wrestling shows on every night for at least 2 hours. Monday through Friday. And it's like, yeah, we don't have enough time. We don't. Like, even with the awesomeness that is DVR, we still don't have enough time. Because by the time you literally can DVR a show, and by the time you get to it, find the time to get to it, it could be the following week, and the new show's going into the queue.
Yeah, and the worst part about it is it's like there's so many shows and movies that I have yet to watch, and I still have more wrestling to add on to that. It's like, yes, ladies and gentlemen, this is our lives now.
Yep, totally. And of course, completely not wrestling related at all. It gets worse in 8 days. Because, 8 days. Because actually, it's almost going to be 7 in about a couple hours, because then Disney Plus comes out and takes away more time of our lives.
You might say it takes away more time of your lives. However, I consider it just another opportunity to see how lack of sleep will affect my work.
That's true. That is absolutely true. It's like how many hours of sleep can I operate in a 24-hour period?
Let us find out.
It's like, this will be a scientific experiment. But on that note, this is it. This has been the TTRP, Turnbuckle Talk Radio Podcast. Thank you for listening. Of course, visit GearNetwork.com. Check out our sponsors. Check out all the other shows that Gear Network has. We have tons of fun content. Of course, for Sergeant Fury, I'm Patchy. Thank you for listening. We will see you on the flip side. The Turnbuckle Talk Radio Podcast is brought to you by Gear Network and ShopGear.com. We can be listened to via Spotify, iTunes, iHeartRadio, and everywhere else you can get your podcasts. The TTRP introduction was done by Trevor Dugan. The show is hosted by Patrick Gancheski and Daniel Roberts. Post-production of the TTRP is done by Patrick Gancheski and John Cimino. If you'd like to follow us via social media, you can search Turnbuckle Talk Radio Podcast on Facebook. You can follow us at Twitter by using the name Turnbuckle_talk. Or if you have questions or concerns, you can reach us via email at turnbuckletlkradio@gmail.com. We'd like to thank you for listening to the Turnbuckle Talk Radio Podcast, downloading our episodes, following us on social media, and interacting with us.
The preceding presentation has been brought to you by the Gear Network.